Today we'll be discussing how governments develop tomorrow's workforce to benefit businesses and citizens. Maintaining full employment and workforce skills is a critical goal of every state and district. To stay competitive in an accelerating world, these government bodies are investing in AI to serve their citizens at large scale, creating incentives to attract businesses and conditions to change people's lives. So please join me in the conversation to learn about the strategies workforce development leaders are pursuing and how they will impact job satisfaction, fair access to opportunities, economic growth, and other critical topics that affect American life everywhere. My name is Dave Carpini. I run our public sector team here at Eightfold, and I'd like to introduce Chris White, who's the Deputy Commissioner of Workforce Development for the New York State Department of Labor, and Arlen Harrell, who's Infrastructure and Workforce Development Expert, District of Columbia Department of Employee Services. Please join us. First, thank you both for participating. We're really delighted to have you here. We've had a really long working relationship with Chris and the New York State Department of Labor, and Arlen is about to embark on his journey with Eightfold, so we're very, very excited about that. Let's just start with some introductions. So if you could introduce yourselves and explain what it is you and your organizations do, let's take it from there.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris White. I am in charge of the workforce development system for the Department of Labor in the state of New York. The Department of Labor in the state of New York, much like other departments around the country, it can be a mishmash of a few different pieces. For us, we have three big divisions. One's the unemployment insurance side, one is the workforce development side, which I run, and the third is worker protection. So making sure all the laws are getting followed by businesses and that sort of thing. For me, I oversee 95 career centers across the state, team of about 1,000 people, where we work with about 500,000 people every single year, helping them connect to jobs, and about 30,000 businesses per year, helping those businesses find workers. So really kind of playing that centerpiece in the supply-demand equation.
Great. Arlen?
Good afternoon. Arlen Harrell, Deputy Chief of Innovation and Partnership at the DC Department of Employment Services. And like Chris, we really do pretty much the same thing. The DC Department of Employment Services is the state labor agency for the District of Columbia. So same three buckets, serving the same three populations. What I do specifically is in Innovation and Partnership is I manage our DC Infrastructure Academy, which is an academy that was launched in March of 2018 for the sole purpose of training district residents for jobs in the infrastructure industry. On that side of my work, we have partnerships with all of our regional utilities as well as corporate partners like Ford and Cisco Systems. And then my other hat that I wear is I manage the Office of Talent and Client Services, which is a fancy name for our Office of Business Engagement. And so anytime a business is coming to the region, I work with our office, the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, to help them come up with a plan for hiring district residents. And I have a bunch of tools under my belt, including things like our work experience program and our on-the-job training program, where we can provide subsidized employees for those companies that are coming to the district.
Great. So those are the mandates in general, but Arlen, tell us a little bit about how historically work has gotten done.
Yeah, so when it comes to the work that we do with the Department of Employment Services, our main mission is to provide opportunities for district residents, employees, and employers. Right, and so to make that three-way connection, to make sure that every person that comes to that is in the district has an opportunity for full employment and a pathway to the middle class, and we do that by managing all the systems that we mentioned before. But more importantly, we do that by making sure that we are providing opportunities around training and growth for our residents and making sure that we are taking down barriers for businesses that are trying to employ local residents. The District of Columbia, as everybody knows, has a very high educational attainment in general and things like that. And so sometimes it's hard for businesses to find employees. The employment rate in the district is lower than most parts of the country, but there are pockets of the city that are still lagging behind. And so our goal is always to make sure that we are providing equitable opportunities across the entire district and making sure that businesses understand that we have a human capital in the district that is unlike anywhere else. No offense to New York.
There's no competition.
Exactly.
No competition at all.
I will get him back for that.
Chris, tell us a little bit about that yourself. How is work getting done, prior to the technologies you've taken on?
Yeah, I hate to say pen and paper, but it often is, and often has been. And I think I will say today, the populations we're serving through government are probably never as wide as they have been. And what I mean by that is we are directed by our friends in the federal government who fund us, right? We get lots of money from them to run programs and to help people and help businesses. But that money is really pushed so much more from a priority perspective for individuals who have barriers to employment. So these are individuals who may have been justice involved. You're talking about youth, you're talking about people who've been unemployed for a long time, talking about veterans, on and on, people who have a disability. And often those barriers are compounded. And so on one end of the spectrum are people who have absolutely no digital literacy whatsoever. So we have to help them get to being digitally literate. We're also serving people who may have fallen out of a C-suite job and are looking for, what the next job is for them. We have to provide, and we do provide services for them as well. Traditionally, though, we have not had technology solutions that have enabled us to actually really serve all those different populations, especially when you factor in the populations that we're serving, which a lot of people who are immigrants, people who are refugees, people who speak, many, many languages beyond English, especially in New York City, but well beyond. We have a huge refugee population upstate. So how do we account for all those different populations and serve them? Typically, it's been people one-on-one, which is never going to go away, and that's important. But and then also almost literally pen and paper sometimes.
Yeah, interesting. You talked about the funding, and tell us a little bit about your selection of Eightfold during the COVID pandemic. Tell us about some of the things that went into that decision and how you decided to move forward with an AI technology platform at that point in time.
Absolutely. And I hate thinking back to that time. I think for everybody, COVID was just this horrific point in their lives. Or you're one of the people who got to work from home and it was like, yay. I was not one of those people. So a side note, when Andrew Cuomo, our former governor, was giving those daily press conferences that seemed to be everyone watched on the news, I was one of the people helping doing the PowerPoint presentation. So I was actually there when all the news was coming in about like horrible things. Great. So then I went away from that after like a month or so, back to the Department of Labor where I worked, and faced this just unprecedented surge of people who were unemployed. At the end of the day, we spiked at about 7 million people that we had to connect to jobs and training and figure out some way to do that. And our system on the unemployment insurance side was absolutely crashing. And the mandate from the governor's office and from all of us was, we cannot let we can't fail people. It's just unacceptable. So we needed to make sure that whatever steps we took, whatever system or systems that we chose did not fail people and actually helped elevate people to new potential and inspire them.
That's awesome. I remember all those conversations we had during that period. So AI has really changed your ability to change the outcomes for people.
Very much so.
Excellent, excellent. Arlen, you're just starting your journey with us, but I know you have some big plans for Eightfold. So can you give us a few of the reasons why you see this technology resonating in the DC area?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we are always trying to do in the DC area is, again, as I mentioned, is to break down barriers. The population that we're really trying to serve using the Eightfold technology is what we call our East of the River, or wards 5, 7, and 8. Historically, lower income, historically African-American community, communities that have historically, not under this administration, but in the past, have been left behind a little bit. And trying to find opportunities to connect them to employment and to highlight some of their past experiences and abilities and ways that they can move up in their careers and advance their careers. And so, the opportunity with Eightfold is that we can make those connections with them, and we can show them and the employers there are different ways of looking at employees and different ways of looking at skills that people have and their abilities. And so, for us, the way that we think that we're going to move forward with this is kind of a cohort system where we will have different cohorts coming out of multiple programs. So we'll have those who are getting off of unemployment insurance. We'll have those who are coming out of the DC Infrastructure Academy. We'll have those that are coming out of some of our other federally funded training opportunities. And we're going to actually usher them through the process by getting them enrolled in the system. And then on my side, the other side that I work on, the business engagement side, we'll be getting businesses to put their opportunities on the platform as well. And so there'll be an opportunity for us to kind of make that marriage on both sides under one roof, and we're really excited about that.
You haven't had the opportunity to do that in the past, correct?
No, we haven't. There are other systems that we use within the government and the Department of Employment Services that are excellent at what they do. But the way that this system is going to be able to synthesize someone's work experience and synthesize an employer's job descriptions and things like that is just very different than what we've been able to do in the past. And that's what we're really excited about. We talk about how job descriptions are not always the best when they're written. I personally hate writing job descriptions when I have openings, and when sometimes I've read job descriptions in my past and thought I have no idea what this job is about. And so if that happens for somebody like me who works in this space, we can only imagine with someone who has not been looking for a job for years or is just looking for a job, the kind of experience that they're having. And so I think that's like where we're really excited about it, because we want to match people's actual skills, not just general words and titles, but we want to actually match their skills to what they can do currently, and what they have the ability to do moving forward.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I'm going to build on that a little bit. So a question for both of you. So the Department of Labor has an important and expansive mandate that involves complex systems all doing different things. How do you see Eightfold actually boosting your infrastructure and investments?
Yeah, I really think it comes down for me to scale and the ability to really help a lot of people and help a lot of businesses in a really unique way that we have never been able to do before. That concept, like Arlen was talking about, to really help people see in themselves something that they otherwise would not be able to see. Because other systems can't do that in the same way, how do we make sure that the systems and the information that we have are fed into Eightfold, right? How do we make sure that the jobs that our businesses have, that we're listing directly or that we're able to get into the system, how do we make sure job seekers get their resumes in or able to update their skills so they can appropriately match? So for us, it is really part of this broad spectrum of technology solutions that we're putting into place, serving everyone from virtual reality headsets that we're putting into middle schools to help students explore careers, all the way up to helping upskill in basic digital literacy for someone who may have been retired for a decade and because of inflation now has to come back into the workforce.
Right. Arlen?
For us, it's really about being able to provide concierge service for the business and for the district resident who's looking for employment. And also, we're not starting ours on a large scale. Hopefully, fingers crossed that things will work out and we'll be able to do it on a much larger scale. But for us, I think it's really about being able to, like I said before, usher in these different groups and kind of walk them through the process. But then also making sure that we're taking down some of the barriers that I talked about before, including things like working with businesses to make sure that the only postings that we're able to match are those that match the district minimum wage. Because we work in a region. DC is DC, Maryland, and Virginia, obviously, but we have the highest minimum wage in the area, $17 an hour. As a district workforce agency, we cannot, in good faith, put our people who are coming out of our trainings and our opportunities and put them into jobs, even if they are close to DC, that are not paying at least the district minimum wage. So there are things like that we're going to be able to use to help our folks find better opportunities.
Great. Chris, you mentioned upskilling, and it leads into our next question. One of the hot topics in our industry right now is learning and development. And how do you see AI enabling progress when it comes to upskilling and reskilling for the citizens of New York?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've really taken, I think, a big leadership role on from my agency's perspective in the state is actually listening to businesses and listening to job seekers. And I think from government, that sounds crazy, like what, right? But we've been really, really open about this, that we don't know what's going on out there. And the only way to really figure out, we have lots of anecdotes, right? so many anecdotes from businesses and job seekers every day. But at scale, how do we really know what's needed out there? And so part of it is we've done some pretty comprehensive surveys over the past few years of businesses and job seekers, really drilling down just for our own knowledge of where should we be putting programming behind, right? Where should we be putting funding, limited taxpayer dollars behind? And a lot of it is about professional skills and digital skills and just skills that can be incorporated into someone else's job. It's not about, I need to go find a new job or a new career now. I think we have such a responsibility to educate people and help enlighten them as to what is required in today's job market for them in their existing job. Because like what, the iPhone's a decade, 12 years old at this point, and it has fundamentally changed so much. Now AI is coming in, and it is fundamentally changing everything at a much quicker rate. There is not any way that I started talking about the human people doing the work, the individuals who are meeting one-on-one with job seekers and businesses. There's no way for my staff, however large it is, to stay on top of all of these things. So we need systems like Eightfold that can come in and actually help show people what that pathway looks like, demonstrate for people in a very human way, right? Like that I think when we were looking at our other systems, Eightfold stood out as it actually talked to you like a human being, right? It said, here are skills that are appropriate for you to get to your next tier in your career, and here's why you should build on them. That was just such a unique aspect for us, and the reason, among others, that that made Eightfold stand out. So for us, it's how do we help people see in themselves a potential that they never would have thought. In personal anecdote, one of the deciding factors for me is I uploaded my resume into Eightfold and I was like, never thought about that job. so that was, yeah.
I'm glad to see the platform.
It works, yeah.
Arlen, how about you? What
Yeah.
about upskilling and reskilling in the DC area?
I think you touched on some really good points there. I think for us, the populations that we're trying to serve, again, generally underserved populations, returning citizens, those who are generally returning to the workforce, they may have had skills in the past that they don't know where those skills are going to take them. And if you don't know about opportunities or what jobs are out there, then you can't apply for them. You don't know that your skills are transferable. And the way that Eightfold is going to be able to help is by literally mapping them and showing them, hey, you may have been an electrician before you served time or things like that, but here's the different paths that you can now take that are going to open up doors for you that you didn't even know about. One of the great things about one of the programs that I offer at the Department of Employment Services is the DC Infrastructure Academy, is the doors that we've opened within the infrastructure industry. And for a lot of those graduates, we're definitely going to be putting them through Eightfold once we get the system up. But a lot of people don't realize that you can be an overhead lineman or underground line person, because those jobs, when you're not exposed to those opportunities and you don't know people who do that type of work, you don't know that that's an option. And so what's great about what this is there is going to be breaking down the barrier of exposure and opportunity.
Great. There's a lot of considerations around AI. I know that both of you had to be very careful, and I know the processes that you both went through in adopting a technology like this.
What are you talking about?
We're still going through.
Please don't blow my cover. How do you see AI acting for good and impacting things like mitigating bias and advancing DE&I? These are big concepts for us, but tell us about your journey along that path as well.
One of the things that we said from the moment we met with Eightfold is that we wanted to make sure that we were able to use it in a way that we could minimize any type of biases. Again, the populations that we're working with, folks, again, returning citizens, traditionally underserved communities, even down to things like specifically what college you went to, the bias that can be associated with that. And so we want to make sure that we are providing every equitable opportunity for district residents that we absolutely can. And the fact that we can do those filters and just show what somebody's capable of doing. Not even also just what they've already done, but what they are capable of doing and how that matches to an employer is amazing, and it's something that we have not been able to do in the past. And I think that it's going to transform how we work with our populations and how we approach businesses when we're trying to get them to hire district residents.
Great.
I think there is a fundamental mistrust in government that exists today, probably at a scale that it hasn't before. And in some instances, I think it's well earned, unfortunately, and we got to get past that and improve that. When you factor in on top of that, you have to give us all your information in order to take part in our systems, it gets worse. And then, oh, by the way, we're factoring in artificial intelligence, ooh, right? So for us, it's been making sure that we're telling the story appropriately, telling people the real benefits, showing them the real benefits of using systems like Eightfold, and showing them that it can be really beneficial without associated risks. It's interesting. I did a presentation to we have like some senior level career counselors, about 100 of them across the state. These are like PhD, master's folks who have done this stuff their whole career. So I sit them down in the room, a little gathering, and I said, look, I'm gonna play a video. Your jobs aren't going away. But I'm gonna play this video, and like I want your reaction. So it was me using ChatGPT to essentially do their job for them. Mm-hmm. And so it was a 5-minute video, and I'm jokingly narrating this thing. So it's like, oh, I'm a job seeker, look at me, right? Like, I don't know what job I want. And I press play on the video, and they're all like, ha 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 ha. And then we had this whole conversation around the starting point for job seekers is such a different place than it was before. Like, you're gonna have people come in the door who know all this stuff already. And then you're gonna have some people who are ChatGPT what, right? But we still have to account for all of that in our systems. I think part of artificial intelligence is also reminding people that when you pop in your phone GPS directions and it reroutes you because of traffic, like, that's artificial intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence has been around and we're using it and we're comfortable. We don't talk about it that way, but if you contextualize it that way, people start letting their guard down a little bit more. And I think for government, that's a hard place to be, but one way we can really, I think, facilitate it and really work together with our partners in the private sector where all this is being created and honed to really kind of push society forward together.
How did that meeting end?
I left. No, it was good. It was actually a really good conversation. And it's funny because the people who were newest probably to the craft and probably younger people who were most comfortable with technology surprisingly tended to be the least comfortable in that conversation. It was the folks who were 20, 30 years into their career and were like, okay, another change, cool, I got this, I have expertise, I am the person, I have the touch. That's my personal thing that I bring.
That's awesome.
I would just add one more thing to our perspective, and that's something that we all know. Studies have shown that women and minorities tend to undersell themselves when it comes to opportunities. They'll read a job description and think, well, I don't meet every single thing on that job description. I've done it myself, and so I think that the opportunity here again is to use the artificial intelligence and to do that matching to say, you don't think, but based off of everything that you've done in your past, you are a very good match for this opportunity. And so it also takes out from the business side saying, well, we don't have enough minorities or women who are applying for these opportunities. And so I think that's another thing that we are super, super excited about, particularly in DC. I mean, the makeup of the district and the educational attainment for, as I mentioned before, a lot of these jobs, you don't have to have a degree to do. But the company just has that because that was something that was on there for years and years and years. And we're pushing companies in a way to be more open to that. And I think that this is going to be an opportunity to open doors for people who have the ability to do things, but don't have the, wouldn't put themselves forward to do them because of historic barriers.
Right, degreeless job recs, yeah, exactly. So we have a couple minutes left. Building on the first book from our founder, What's Next for You? Tell us what's next for both of you, for State of New York and for District of Columbia.
Oh, geez. The District of Columbia, we are constantly working, as I mentioned before, to provide opportunities and pathways to the middle class for all of our residents. For the Department of Employment Services, our director, Dr. Unique Morris Hughes, has put forward our Vision Forward plan, which is a 6-point plan that includes providing best-in-class customer service to district residents and smart and effective systems. which is why we're here today, and making sure that we are, continuing to be on the cutting edge across the country to provide opportunities for our residents, and making sure that we are continuing to be business friendly, and that we are providing concierge service to businesses that are coming into the district to make sure that there is not an excuse in any way that when you come to the DMV that you can't hire a district resident to do any position that you have available. And that's what we are definitely going to be working to continue to do.
Great, love that. We have a lot in the works for sure, and I think we have a lot of really good tools like Eightfold. We have a partnership with Coursera that we're utilizing as well, which feeds into Eightfold. It's really great. And these are things that did not exist pre-pandemic, and it's because of the pandemic opened up so many doors like that for us. It's also pushed us, as to where we're going next, it's pushed us to really hone in on where we can be most impactful, especially from that one-on-one perspective, allowing technology to do what it does best for the people who have access to use it. So how can we, how can we get out of our offices and go into neighborhoods and communities who are fearful of technology, who have low digital literacy rates? Part of that is a program we're actually launching this summer, where we're hiring 30 teachers from across the state for a month, for 4 weeks during the summer. And we're gonna teach them all about our systems, teach them all about workforce development, teach them all about the crazy cool things that are happening among jobs out there, and then sending them back into their classrooms for the rest of the year so they can be ambassadors, and then we're gonna grow the program and do it again the following year.
That's a great program. It's a great program. Well, I think we're out of time. I wanna thank you both for participating. Mostly, I want to thank you both for being great partners of Eightfold, and thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.